Welcome to adventurebiketroop.com, where we chat about bike riding, maintenance, travel tips and more, and wheelies. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. So I've always wanted to learn how to wheelie, but I'm so scared I'm going to loop out or flip over backwards, and I'm really scared of hurting myself. And I've watched countless videos on how to wheelie, but when you practice it yourself, it's just not that easy. I'm determined to learn to wheelie, and I'm going to share my tips as a complete beginner as I learn. So the first session I just tried to get the wheel up. Load up the suspension, and as it rebounds, give it throttle. So I'm not using the clutch here, and I'm in second gear, and this is a 270 two-stroke bike. Now the first time I did this, I didn't quite get the timing right, so a friend of mine told me to give some throttle just before you reach the bottom. So you want to get the slack out of the drivetrain. So every time the wheel comes up, I get scared and I pull myself to the front. I'm still doing a double bounce to get the timing right. So bounce, and there's this main bounce, and there we give it some throttle just before you reach the bottom. So as it rebounds, you're on the power. You can see I still lean forward there. I flipped sideways because I pulled my arms in. So I did this a couple of times. So pay attention. You can listen when I rev it up just before I reach the bottom. After a while, this starts getting easier, but you can still see my body leaning forward. We're still in second gear, but what I did here is to start learning to cover the rear brake. So you can see, as the wheel comes up, jab the brake to bring it down again. I didn't worry too much about the height of the wheel here, because the key is to learn to cover that rear brake and to use it, or it must become second nature or muscle memory. So later on, the idea is that if it goes too high and you want to prevent it from looping out, you will hit that rear brake without thinking. At this stage, I'm getting a little bit more comfortable getting it up higher, because I'm getting used to that rear brake. Jump, give throttle before the bottom or before you rebound, and then lift up the wheel. So as I progress, I'll work towards clutching up the bike, and once I get comfortable clutching up the bike, covering the rear brake, and getting it high up, I might transition over to the bigger bike. But at least if I fall with this bike, it won't cause too much damage, and I'll be able to just jump off the back. So thank you for joining me. If there's any tips that you want to give me or all the other noobs out there, I'd love to hear from you. There's all these pros telling you how to wheelie, but then we try it yourself. It's actually not that easy. And I realize now it's going to take hours and hours of practice to get this right. So if you're in the same position, I'd love to hear from you how you are learning how to wheelie. At this stage I was so tired after an hour of practicing, so I just packed it up. I was not going to ride up under pickup, decided to just walk it down. Thank you for joining us. See you next time on Adventure Bike Troop. Whew. I'm tired now. Cheers.